Hey, welcome to this new episode. Today we are going to continue with our Devops course on Linux. And in today's class, we are going to cover groups or group management. In particular, we are going to talk about how to create groups, mm, add users within the groups, remove users from the groups, see group information, and delete groups. We are not going to cover how manage or distribute permissions because it's something more advanced, and only in this first part we are going to cover just how to manage in general purpose that groups. So let's start with the most basic command when we talk about groups, and it's about group add. Group add allows us to create groups. The reason why we have to use sudo is because groups also have the same uh, relevance than user, because groups allows to conform by groups are conformed by users, and is there is a generic or other way to assign a specific permission to a specific amount of users. And also we are going to cover how to change the primary group for a user and what does that mean. So we have to use sudo in this case, and also define the group's name. In my case, I am going to create the developers group, and groups are so important because allows, at least it's not just for maybe give permissions and allows user to share resource and give some ideas who are developing what. Also allows to perform traceability and knows what they are doing inside the server. We can create developers and project managers, server administrators, and maybe share all that resource between them and know what are they doing. So is that's the reason why this is so important. So let's start creating developers, and developers is already created. We can use the cat atc group to see all the groups and also see the developer group, but I am going to show you another way to know or get that information in two different ways. We can use this one, that is using the atc group and using this character known as pipe, and use another command like grep. Grep allows to, works like a filter where we can use a regular expression, and the command only returns the lines that matches with this inside quotation mark regular expression. In this case, the regular expression is so basic because it's just, hey, just return to me the line who contains developers. But we can use more advanced regular expressions. Maybe if I start with dev, or maybe if the group has 5 characters and more. In my case, just use grep developers because I'm only interested in the group called developers. So once we execute the command, we see we have the line that is developers, the colon character, the inside quotation mark encrypted password, and the group ID. But in other hand, we have the head n. I don't know how to pronounce this command, and also give us the same information that this command, but in a shortest way. So we use group and use developers, and as you can see, we have the same result. And maybe I think that's all. Let's include the Debian user into this group, and maybe you remember how to do this because we saw in the last episodes about how to maybe include the Chrysler user inside the root, the sudo group. So yeah, if you remember that, we have to use the user mod because we are perform a user modification and give the a uppercase A and lowercase a and uppercase G, because this allows to specify, hey, add this group, add the user to this group as secondary group, but keep the other secondary group. Because if we don't use these params, and we add, or yeah, we add the user to the, for example, if we have to include Debian to developers, and we don't use this, we are going to remove all the secondary Debian groups and only give the developer. So the idea is preserve the other secondary groups. So use this just like that, and give them the developers names group. And the last parameter is clearly the Debian username. So once we perform this command, we can see, we can see the Debian group in the following way, using the groups command using Debian. And as you can see, we have a new one called developer, but Debian is still, the Debian group is still the primary group. So it's important to notice the difference between secondary and primary group. In other hand, we can also remove the user, but in this case, we are not going to perform user mode. We are going to perform gpasswd. I'm not sure why we use this way, but it's, well, we have one thing clear, and is try to remember or just know how this command works. So using this way, and don't forget the d parameter. After, we have to use the be careful, because if we don't use the parameter, we are going to remove the user. And right now, I'm not interested to perform this test. So use the d param to specify, hey, just remove this user from this group. And in this case, is Debian user, and the group is developer. So that's nice. Once we perform this action, we see the message. And also, if we perform groups Debian, as you can see, developer is no longer available. The other hand is how to list or make a list about the all system groups. Well, the easiest one is ATC groups, but maybe if you want to make more clearly remove this one, we can perform certain um, regex operation to remove this one. And this is easy, because we can use the cut command and define a separator using the d param. And the separator, as you can see, is the colon. So we are going to use the column, and the following one is the column name, column number, because we are not using names, but we can use numbers. And if we use the column as separator, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 columns. I'm not pretty sure just right now, but in this way, we are telling to this command, hey, you are going to read this file and separate each like a table. Use this file like a table, and separate each element using the colon. Also, you can use the comma and CSV. And this is so useful. And use the F1, F2 of F3 to retrieve depending on what info we need. So maybe if I want the group ID, I can request the tier column. And as you can see, we have the groups ID, but I am no longer interested in group ID. So let's back to the command and modify to use the first column. And as you can see, we have all the system names. The reason why I'm telling about grep or telling about cut is because it's also useful to know other command that allows to perform basic operation. Meanwhile, we are learn about the basic tools on a Linux distribution. That's why we use grep like maybe a filter, and we can use cut to perform a maybe not like a filter. It's just like, hey, this file has a table format, use the separator and give me the first one for each line. So that's why that I am telling you how to use these commands, because these commands exist and it's important to know how it works. So let's go to the next section, and is how to make a group as the user's primary group. Before this, I'm going to tell you what is the primary and secondary groups. First of all, the user one user only can have a only one primary group, and that one primary group is important, and the secondary groups, and as you hear about it, is just groups or other groups. So that means the user can only have one group, and could have a lot of secondary groups. The primary groups allows to distribute or perform certain operation depending on what action are executing the user in question. What is the purpose? For example, if the user are working as a developer, and if the user create maybe the index.html, and if not longer from the developers group as primary group, and in other hand the user is within the Debian primary group, so the other developers cannot perform action into the index.html because it's just close to the author Debian and the group Debian. So the idea is the user is within a group that share with others, because that means the all resource created by all the group members are shared, and everyone's into the group can use and perform, edit, remove, create, and share that permissions. That means if the user is into the developers group and create a index.html, that means that all the user inside um, developers group can perform action to that files. That is the main purpose. So this is highly recommend once the user have to work with a team, and it's important share resource all the time. So, and maybe if the works ends and the user need back to the Debian, okay, you can go back to your primary group as Debian. Don't worry about it, and or maybe change responsibilities. All depends on the context. But if the user are going to or will to work with other guys and share resource, the most important is that the user set as the developers as the main or the primary group, because that automatically change the files and folders that the user create and perform actions to share with others. So the main is the way to change this is use user mode and use the g param instead a g. In this way we can assign this primary group, and all the folders and files the user create in the future will be shared with the developers group. But I want you to notice something, but because it's, for example, ls. In my case, I'm in my home directory, and as you can see, by default, all the groups, of the files are created by Debian, the user Debian, and shared with the Debian group. It's a normal behavior once the user change it's their primary group doesn't change the already folders and file exist. That means this won't to change, or this won't be to change. But maybe my server, I already tested, that's why I am telling you this right now. But maybe there is a specific configuration that automatically, once the user change their primary group, also change all the existing other groups. So maybe ignore this, because the default behavior is preserve or keep the old ones with the all primary group, and not change that. So let's test this out. So user mode g, for example, developers and Debian, and as you can see sudo clicks, and as you can see ll all group about the home folder changed to developers. So this is not recommend because the home folder is not shareable, or the idea is avoid to share the file because it's like a, a field box for each user. So maybe if you, well, if this happened to you, I recommend use this command that perform a recursive operation and change all the um, all the group, all the files and folder groups in the home user. So the following command is this, but I'm not well, I'm not going to explain at all. It's just, hey, for this time, use this command if this happen also to you. But the idea is not explain this to 100% because we are not in the video to do that. So we are going to perform this in a recursive way, and we are going to specify the folder. In this case is Debian, and also we have to tell to this tool A what the tool have to change for each file and folder. So the idea is preserve Debian but change the group to also Debian. In this way we can see the groups. I'm sorry, ls, where am I? Okay, ls, okay, la. And as you can see, Debian's group back again, and that's the idea. Home directory is important because, for example, if you are working with others and maybe you want to test some component or some configuration and you just download it and put it inside a shared folder, maybe someone can confuse and interpreted that like hey, this new file I can use it to include, but that's not idea because it's a file that uh, has not ready to test and just was a test that the user Debian has to know before to implement at the production phase. So the idea is just use home to that and maybe preserve shareable folders like, I don't know, developer folder to, hey guys, all the work will be stored just right there, and go on. So I hope this video was helpful. We are going to finish the video deleting that group, but after, well, before that, I want to know what happened if I try to remove a group that also is used by other user as primary group. So let's remove developers, and as you can see, we can remove the primary group of the user Debian. Well, this tool is useful because I already told us, hey, what is the user using this group as primary, so we can change that group user use sudo user mode g and back again use group Debian to the user Debian. And as you can see, well, there is no change here because we already changed the Debian, but we can well, use, for example, id Debian. As you can see, Debian is back again, and we can remove the group again, and we can perform the action successfully. So let's remove this one, developers. I just forgot the name. And as you can see, if I don't know, for example, try to cut ATC groups and use grep developers, we are not longer see something like that. Okay, whoops, is not just like that. It's just, and as you can see, we didn't see nothing as return, but as you can see also, no, there is no more groups just right there. So I hope this video was helpful, and see you in the next time. Bye bye.